Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from Sidegame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be taking a look at Capital Lux 2 Generations, published by Apporta Games, and we're going to take a review at the game as a whole. That being said, let's get started. So first off, a quick overview of the game. The point of this game is to have the most points. At the end of the game, you're going to score points based on the cards that are in your home base here, as well as 2 points for every coin here. Each of your cards is worth their value here, and you'll just simply add them all up. Now, how are you going to be getting these into your city? Well, you're going to be playing 3 rounds. At the start of each round, you're going to have 6 cards here. You're going to draft them 2 at a time, going clockwise. And then starting with the first player, you're going to have a choice. The first choice is you can either play 1 card into your home base. And remember, that's how you're going to score. Or you can play a card into the city up there. Now, when you play a card into the city, you trigger a special ability that's tied to each color. So remember, abilities if you play to the city, but you're not actually scoring points for them. Now, why does it matter where these things are? Well, at the end of each round, depending on where you place the cards, you're going to see if you actually get to keep those cards in your home base. When you play down in front of you, you are increasing the amount of points you get. But if you are playing into the capital, you're increasing your scoring potential, but not just yours, everybody's. At the end of each round, we're going to check each color here in the capital. So this 5 for blue here means that every player has to have 5 or less total value in their home base. So since I have a 6 here in my home base, I have to discard it. I cannot score for this. But blue here has a 4, which means they are still good. And since they have the most here at the end of the round, they actually take the highest card from the capital, and they're going to add it to their scoring pile as a bonus card. So this is going to give them extra points on top of those coins and the cards in their home base. So very powerful. You want to be grabbing those high value bonus cards. Then we check pink, 7 to nothing. Since I have the most, I take that highest card as a bonus. And then yellow, once again, I have the most. I'm not past that, so I keep that as a bonus. But since there's nothing in green, since I have green, I have to get rid of all of my green. Now, as you can see, this is going to be 3 rounds, and because of the end of that first round, there's nothing in yellow anymore or blue. So this player is probably going to want to play some stuff in the middle so that they can actually score for their blue. Same thing with me. I'll probably want to play some in yellow to make sure that I get to keep my points that I played earlier. So it's a very interesting game with very simple rules. Now, that being said, that is the overview of the game, but why do I love this game? Now, I'm just going to be straight up with you. This game is a 10 out of 10 for me. Now, the reason this is because, number 1, the rule set is so dang simple. You either play a card in front of you or you play it to the center. I love that. It's so straightforward, but the complexity comes from the effects of the cards. And that's the second thing I love about this game, are the abilities of the cards themselves. So the game comes with all sorts of these ability tiles, and they each correspond to a color. So you're going to randomly shuffle them up and pick 4 different colors and assign those to the effects here. Now, for example, in this situation here, every time you play a green card, you simply just draw a card from the deck. Very straightforward. At the end of the round, if you have extra cards in your hand, it ends when somebody's played all their cards, then you're going to put all those cards in your hand into your board. So I think that's really cool. It gives you some flexibility onto how you're going to be scoring points and how you can control the capital. Now, that being said, you might pull a different tile. Like this one here is the Discoverer. This is actually going to introduce a whole board to the game, and each player is going to have to get their own rocket ship and travel along the board. And I love that there's so much variance based on these 4 different tiles. Now, they could be very large, like you saw with the exploration board, or they could be something very straightforward and simple. Like all this one does is simply you get a coin. Coins are really cool. They could be used for increasing your personal maximum by 1, or they're just extra points if you don't have to use them at the end of the game. So I really enjoy just the different mechanics that are involved in this. And that's really the meat of the game, because these are going to come out in all sorts of different combinations, and it's going to offer a different experience every time. And the other cool thing, number 3, is how thoughtful the game is. This game gives me what I like to call positive stress. I like to have stress in an area in a game. It means that it's something that I'm able to control and focus on and work on and finish in a considerably short amount of time. It makes me feel so satisfying when I'm able to get a perfect combo out or get a specific number, and this game does that in spades. Not only am I looking at the capital to kind of check to see where I'm going and how powerful my strategies can be and how many points I can score, but I'm constantly looking at other people's tables, looking at their tableaus, seeing, okay, oh man, they have some points here. I've got to make sure I beat them. Or, hey, if I use the ability here, I could potentially remove a card and make it so that they're under their minimum. You can do some very crafty and very satisfying things in this game, but it's all this positive stress where you're thinking to yourself, ooh, if I can do this, or oh man, if I want to do this, this is just such a good game for that. Now, the other cool thing that I want to point out are the end of round mechanism. I love that you have 3 rounds that you're going to be scoring, and I love the bonus card system. The first thing is straight up their points at the end, which is great, but they remove them from the capital here, which I think is so elegantly done. It basically makes it so, hey, if you are scoring a lot here, you got to make sure that you are playing and you're drafting cards that are going to help you out in the future. Now, that being said, in later rounds, you might have some really high-scoring stuff in here, and something may happen where this is going to be decreased wholly. And it's really scary to kind of rely on others in order to support your own setup. So I really enjoy that, and I think it's so well done. Now, the last thing that I want to point out, some things that I do not like, are the expansion content. Now, I'm not going to say that I dislike them because, truth be told, I don't think the game really needs them. There are additional modules that you can use. They've got this postcard system that allows you to take some additional actions, and then there are also these once per game superpower cards. Personally, I don't think you really need them. I think they're fun if you've played a lot and you want to change things up, but personally, I don't think you need it, which is kind of a positive because the negative of this game is you don't need to find the expansions, which is so cool. That means that if you just get the core game as a whole, it's going to be everything that you need, and I think that is awesome. I also really like how the appendix is laid out. They have examples of every phase on how the different tokens work. I love that there are just so many different variations to, abilities that take literally a block of text to things that have their whole paragraph section. It's so interesting how they're able to really open up the design space with those different expansions. And I love that you can really cater it to people to play with something a bit less complex. That way you can kind of ease them into the game. So there's lots of scalability here to player difficulty. And one more cool thing that I really enjoy is the solo mode. I am so surprised that a game like this has a solo mode that actually works well. So the way it works here is it's replicating a player that's going to be taking cards and putting things into the center, etc. And I think that is so cool. It's also going to be removing stuff from the center. And I just think that's amazing how they were able to take a simple game like this and implement a simple solo solution where you can still play this game. Another thing that I really enjoy is the player scalability. The 2-player game is so much different from the 4-player game, and oh my gosh, it's just such a different feel. The games are tighter, there's less competition, but there's also less cards being put onto the capital, so the numbers matter a little bit more. It's pretty dang scary. It's also very nerve-wracking during those large games when there are 3 people going before you, and a lot can change in those 3 turns, but you still have to be able to plan for those. Once again, it induces that positive stress. Now, my final thoughts of this game, I think that Capital Lux 2 Generations is a surefire winner. I mean, this is a side game strong selection if I have seen anything. One of my favorite new filler games I've played a long time. A big shout out to Tia over from Takaijo for introducing me this game as a whole. But I think that if you get a copy of Capital Lux 2 Generations, you will not regret it. Fantastic production, fantastic game. The art by Kwanchai Moria here. Elif and Christian here have done a fantastic job in the game design. They've refined it from the first edition. They've added a couple of rules changes to kind of streamline everything and to make it so that there's a little bit to go off of at the beginning. I love it. I cannot recommend Capital Lux 2 Generations enough. Fantastic. 10 out of 10 game for me. Side game selection, of course. Wonderful game. So that's my review of Capital Lux 2 Generations. Do you have any questions or anything you'd like to know about the game? I'd love to hear what you think. So once again, thank you so much for watching. Side Game Strong.